It was a monumental day in the history of college football with the Brendan Soarsby ruling, giving him the injunction to allow him to play this season pending appeal from the NCAA. College football world exploded over that. A lot of people with altruistic intentions, maybe they shouldn't be necessarily preaching in their specific situations. Reporters pretty universally coming against this, and Texas Tech fans, a lot of them, feeling like they're getting beaten up online about this and lashing back out. So I want to get everybody's take, get your opinions on that as we go through the night, watching the game, see if the Knicks can pull this off. I'm a Knicks fan, just to be clear. Respect the Spurs for sure, but I've never seen a championship in my lifetime. It would be nice to see one. I never thought I would see one, so the Knicks winning this is clearly what I would like to have happen. But this series right now, it's nothing's done until it's done. Right now, you got the Spurs battling hard on the road after losing 2 at home. So Texas is all over the place today. We got San Antonio up in New York for the NBA game here, and we got everything that's going on in and around Lubbock in Texas District Court today with the Brendan Soarsby ruling and the aftermath of that all. So let's see if we can at some point get your guys' chats onto the screen. I will figure that out in short order here. All right, the Knicks are coming, dribbling down, and a three-pointer here for the Knicks has Josh Hart, who has been tremendous in this series, but not necessarily on the scoreboard, has been a factor on the scoreboard this game. It's definitely interesting having the Gamecast here being a little bit ahead of the TV. There's not much I can do about that. So I'm wondering, first of all, if you're in the chat, tell me who you're going for, who you're pulling for. You Knicks, I know we have a lot of Canes fans here, so there's a lot of Heat fans who probably hate the Knicks, and I understand that as well. But let me know who you might be pulling for, all things being equal here. But I definitely want to get, what was your take on the ruling in court today as we are in a TV timeout? Brendan Soarsby, right now, suspended for 2 games by the judge. That's his condition of this temporary injunction. Texas Tech isn't really playing anyone. Well, they're playing Oregon State and Texas Abilene, I believe, before they line up for Houston. So right now, if no appeals work and nothing happens, Soarsby will be lining up. He'll be suspended for the first 2 games, back in time for week 3, which I believe is against Houston. So let me know what you guys are thinking about that result there, and whether or not you've seen any of the commentary that has flooded social media today, including really impactful things that could affect Texas Tech, and I think in ways that maybe no one expected. The NCAA is not allowed to do anything to Brendan Soarsby. They can't. That's the judge's ruling. They are removed. But there's things afoot where people are threatening to not play potentially Texas Tech this season in those games. There's a big meeting with the Big 12 that's going to discuss the situation generally. We have Georgia and Nebraska, among others, who have already basically let it be known that, program-wide, not just football, their schools are not to schedule Texas Tech in any sport going forward, and they are to try to get out of games that they might already have on the schedule across the board. People are lashing out from other programs, not, I think, just because of the ruling. I think it's because of Texas Tech's administration's support of Soarsby's lawsuit against the NCAA before a ruling was done. And then some of the responses from the athletic director on that. But I think there's also another factor there for sure, and that is the Cody Campbell factor. Cody Campbell, very well-known booster for Texas Tech. I think what he has done for that program in terms of supporting their NIL so they could really compete and make it to the college football championships and college football playoffs and aspirations for the title. I don't think, people can shit on him, but I'm not going to do that for that aspect of what he's done, because I think that's great that they got the support to compete in the current environment. Zero problem with that whatsoever. Money is part of recruiting. Money's part of the portal. Anyone acting differently is just jealous that they don't have the money that he's given to Texas Tech. So no problem there. He also has access. He was one of the co-chairmen named with Nick Saban to the College Sports Commission last summer, very short-lived one. And he's had some things that he was backing, like I think it's called the College Sports Act or something along those lines, that had some good parts to it, some of which actually moved into not just the SCORE Act, but more particularly the Protect College Sports Act that Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell introduced in the Senate last week. There are aspects to that that I think are great. There are also aspects to it that I think suck. And I think that Cody Campbell has become a polarizing figure for the Big Ten and the SEC in particular, but also within the Big 12. He's taken shots at Brett Yormark. And so there's a whole range of opinions on a billionaire who was a former athlete who has access to President Trump, to Ted Cruz, who he's a big donor for. And I think you can't act like some of that and some of the things recently in the legislation that were proposed aren't maybe an additional backstory to the lashing out that we are finding right now in college sports. As we get ready to come back from the timeout with 6:05 to go here. Spurs missed their first field goal, but the offensive rebound puts it back in. Dylan Harper scores. It's a 2-point game. Brunson misses. Spurs get the rebound with a chance to tie here. James Kane says he's rooting for the Knicks here. Kalen, the Diesel Freak, is also going for the Knicks. So it's interesting to see what the mixes are out here. Still working on getting your guys' chats so I can put them on the screen. And the Spurs have now taken the lead back from the Knicks. So the Spurs started off, had I think as big as an 11 or 12-point lead in the first quarter. The Knicks came back to have a 7-point lead. Now the Spurs have taken it back with 4:50 to go. Rebound Knicks here. Back out to the top of the key. And a nice pickup there to miss a wild shot. Gets the 2 points. Knicks down by 1 with 4:32 to go. Jalen Brunson now has 4 fouls, though, with 4:29 to go in the third period, which obviously can have some ramifications for the Knicks here. 4:32 to go. Jalen Brunson now has 4 fouls, though, with 4:29 to go in the third period, which obviously can have some ramifications for the Knicks here. 4:32 to go. Jalen Brunson now has 4 fouls, though, with 4:29 to go in the third period, which obviously can have some ramifications for the Knicks here. James Kane says, to be honest, the Sorsby thing was not surprising. I just called it. Just in general, the courts are corrupt and some of them will lose their jobs. It is interesting that the Court of Appeals, the next level in the state of Texas, there are 4 judges on that, and they're all Texas Tech grads. If James also, Kaden the Diesel Freak says that's ridiculous. And also thank you for the 10 jewels, Kaden the Diesel Freak. Appreciate the support of the channel. James says if any one of the Big 12 conferences, he was one of them, he would not play them. It is interesting that the Court of Appeals, the next level, it does open things like when Reggie Bush lost the Heisman, and they're all Texas Tech grads. How about Iowa State? They had quarterbacks and other players suspended for lose their careers over less than what for the 10 jewels. That was less than what Sorsby did. So James says if any one of the Big 12 conferences, he was 81-78 with a foul called there on Devin Vassell. Right now, if you see the New York Knicks, even though down 3, their current win percentage is 50.6. So they're down 3, but because of the home court, they still are technically just a shade high on the win percentage side. Bad pass by Hart. Layup is missed, but the rebound put back. And it's now 81-80 game with the Spurs on top. I think the Knicks are in the penalty there with another foul. I think that was on Chamlet. Spurs will shoot. I think they'll be shooting 2 if I'm not mistaken, but I didn't see the play, so. All right, I think we got the chat going here. James Kane says Brunson's going to foul out if this keeps up. Very well could. (82-80), 3:31 to go. All right, got that on cruise control now. Should be able to get your chats up when they come up. Again, you're more than welcome to super chat, but at least hit the like button. Would appreciate that for sure. Saved a bunch of tweets here today, so we'll go over some of them. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit, make it easier to see while we keep as much of the game as large as possible for you guys in the run there. San Antonio is up 84-81 as the Knicks dribble down court. Blocked by Towns, and Knicks get the rebound. Wild layup does not sink, so the Spurs continue back down the court. Jose Alvarado is just out of control going into the paint on that one. Not a good possession. If you missed it, back onto the front on what the ramifications are going to be potentially for Texas Tech. You'll see on the screen, and if you're on your phone, I'll read it out to you. Big Ten officials, so this dropped about an hour ago, are expected to discuss in the coming days a league-wide mandate to not play Texas Tech in any sports per 3 Big Ten sources. This is in the wake of Nebraska Athletic Director Troy Damon informing his staff today that they are not allowed to schedule Texas Tech. Then there's this one, which I do want to talk about too. This is Josh Brooks, who is the Georgia athletic director, whose president has also been pretty wide out there, who I responded to already. His comment was, true integrity means holding your program accountable when things go wrong, not buying custom legislation or running to a local courtroom to bypass the rules. Now, on one level, I don't think that anything he said there is necessarily wrong. You may not agree with it. Some people have a different point of view. But I would say that right now, perhaps, the athletic director at Georgia, where they've had about 155,000 players busted for some form of driving issues, tickets, summonses, deaths a few years ago, is probably not the one that should be out front on all of this. Just like in some degree, driving, if you're a Miami fan, Miami's had a couple of issues that have been tragic, and I know very well personally. So sometimes you just got to wonder, does this guy not read the room? I think there are probably better messengers for that message right now, even though I understand what Josh Brooks is saying or trying to relay in that situation. This, I think, is one of the more interesting ones I saw in terms of reaction to what's gone on, coming from the athletic director of Kansas State. And I want to make this bigger so you guys can have a better chance of reading it. Kansas State athletic director Gene Taylor, speaking on the record to Ross Dellinger of Yahoo, who breaks so much of this stuff, calls the court ruling in the Brendan Soarsby case fucking bullshit, and that Big 12 teams are considering refusing to play Texas Tech. So I have a question for all of you guys. Is this fair for schools in the Big 12 to be saying this, for the Big 10, for the SEC? Right now, no one's, the NCAA can't do anything to Texas Tech. Do you think that the reaction would be this way if the following things hadn't happened? If last week, when this was about to go to court, if Texas Tech hadn't basically fully come out endorsing and supporting their player, Brendan Soarsby, and not just on his rehab journey, which he very well could have a gambling addiction, right? Based off of all the bets we've seen and the frequency and the methods he went, I think that's fair to think that he did. But if they had not come out vocally that way, and then today with the quick statements thanking them and deflecting onto the rehab side, and Cody Campbell, and I'll hopefully find that tweet, basically talking about, since he is the $5 million behind Brendan Soarsby coming to Texas Tech, which I don't begrudge the kid getting whatsoever, do you think all these programs would have reacted the same way? Is it the last straw for Texas Tech in some of their eyes, rightfully or wrongfully? Wondering what you guys think on that one. Because I think it's a multi-layered thing. I think people are just frustrated with college football in general. I think they have been getting, in some quarters, not all, more frustrated with Cody Campbell in particular, and that the one red line that everybody thought you could not cross was betting on your own team, betting on the sport generally, but specifically betting on your own team, even if you weren't playing and even if you bet on a positive side for them. So I think that's kind of what's going on. And Dave's here says, I don't see how anyone could ever be fired for drug use if they seek treatment with this. That's, I think, a valid concern. The thing I said about earlier today was a different version of that. Alcoholism is an addiction, right? As the game moves to 86-84 on my TV, I'm not sure if Gamecast has slowed down. I'll try to reset it here in a second. The alcoholism is an addiction, right? And not every time somebody drives drunk do they kill somebody. Sometimes they just get a ticket. They get pulled over. They go to court. They lose their license. Are we now going to have people try to sit there and say, well, I'm an addict, and me losing my license is going to cause me irreparable harm for whatever reason they might say? Work-related, family-related, the ability to do X or Y that can enhance them, because I don't fundamentally know what the difference is in that case. The next time, maybe Brendan Soarsby will not be the problem child. But what if the next person now feels like, hey, I can just claim whatever I want. I'm going to bet whatever I want, and I'll just act like, oh, I didn't realize I bet against my team. That's not the bet I meant to take. Or a prop bet where they don't score a second touchdown in the game because they took the under and they just happen to trip. Or they don't even use a gambling app and they go and use, old school bookies, right? Where we don't know what's going on. So I think the risks are pretty tremendous, actually. Let's see if we can make sure that we're getting this straight. As the Knicks tie the game, 89-89. But the Spurs answer right away with their own trifecta to go up 92-89 with 33 seconds left to go in the third quarter. Back and forth game here. 15 seconds left. Knicks will come down, see if they can Mikal Bridges with the 2-pointer, down 1. And that's how we will end the third quarter, with the defensive rebound from the Knicks as the Spurs missed their last shot of the quarter. 92-91, end of the third. So the Spurs erase a 6 or 7 point lead at halftime, take a 1 point lead on the Knicks heading in to the fourth quarter. This is a crazy game. James Kane says, the court system was already a joke, to be honest, with the guilty until proven innocent on most things now this side of the spectrum. Instead of something. I think you're going to say the other way around. All right, so we're in our little TV timeout here. Let's see if we can find some more of the interesting tweets that wound up hitting today because of everything that went down. Dave's here says, another state's attorney general needs to take this to the Supreme Court. Yeah, the interesting thing is they're going to, they're not going to be able to go to the Supreme Court first, right? It has to work its way up the system. If they file, they're not going to be able to, I think, go to the Supreme Court. I think they'd have to file locally first, unless, there may be a lawyer who can do something different. Obviously, this is in Texas state court currently, so it's not even in a federal jurisdiction. Somebody would probably have to file in federal to say that this is, somehow crossing state lines, needs to be moved to a federal court as quickly as possible. But remember, we also have a couple of things going on here. We got a clock going. For Sorsby, June 30th is the last day to theoretically apply to be part of the supplemental draft. And then we have the clock of, week 1. Right now, this current case, the trial is set for, I think, February 8th of 2027. So barring an appeal and an expeditious move, he'll just run out the clock here. I did find an article in the New York Times talking about what's next. It's pretty unanimous out there against this judge's ruling. Stuart Mandel, the Brendan Soarsby court ruling is unlike any NCAA loss before it. This one is unconscionable. Shame on Texas Tech for supporting it. And that's why they are getting so much heat. And I feel for Texas Tech fans, I really do. Because they weren't responsible for bringing him here. They aren't responsible for people mad at Cody Campbell for the things he's doing on the legislation side or just being a big mouthpiece out there. They, the transfer portal changed, so there's no spring portal, so they had no real options to do that. And they're basically getting, I think, the frustrations of years of stuff around college football in the NCAA and losses and NIL and transfer portals and coaches and salaries and people doing this and people doing that. Some people getting nailed, other people not. Bags in the Southeastern Conference cars, but other schools, Miami being one of them, getting nailed constantly for things that maybe a lot of people did. So I understand their frustration. I do. I think them getting shots because they're spending money on their team. Sorry, every time you talk about a program spending money like they bought players, as if everyone's not buying players, you're just doing an advertisement for that program that they might have more money than you. But I do get the frustration that they have. But I also think if you're going to deflect to, well, what happened at Georgia, that has literally nothing to do with what you are or not doing on your own team with the decisions you're making. And if you're going to talk about, hey, well, what about Cincinnati? What happened there? They didn't do anything. They didn't get nailed for anything. Or Indiana. Here's the thing. Right now, at least, we do not know in the general public, when did Indiana find out and when did they know it? When did Cincinnati definitely find out? When did they know it? I don't know if Texas Tech knew about a problem with Sorsby before they recruited him. Maybe they didn't do deep vetting of him. Maybe they did. I'm not really sure. But the thing we do know is that publicly Texas Tech supported not just the mental health of the student, which I think is fair, and getting him the help is a good thing, and they should do that. But they supported the lawsuit against the NCAA, trying to get him reinstated pretty vociferously, even though their name is technically not on the docket. They were definitely part of the support there, and we don't know how much support backside they got with Cody or anyone in terms of getting him his lawyers. The Speaker of the House of Texas was one of his co-lawyers there. And then today, some of the statements from Kirby Hocutt and definitely from Cody Campbell, I think, rubbed people the wrong way. So that's, you're kind of in a trick bag, but I think I'd feel for a little bit of on the Texas Tech fan side for sure. Dave comes in. Yeah, unless the case is between states. Right, but right now I don't know if it's really between states necessarily, because right now it's between Brendan Soarsby and the NCAA in a courtroom in Texas. You'd have to figure out the right angle for it to be North Carolina or Florida or California against Texas on the same front. So, like, how do you do that? And how do you do that in any fast fashion is kind of just my question there, not that I know the answer. And James, I think you have the right point here, right? The whole situation is a clusterfuck. There are a lot of articles today that normally would be behind paywalls that people are opening up. So you might want to check them out a little bit later on as well. All right, we're back here. The Spurs are now up 94-91 as the beginning of the fourth quarter begins. Foul on the Knicks. I don't know if it was shooting or not, but either way, Spurs are either going to have possession or be shooting. Here's the earlier mention. Georgia and Nebraska have told their coaches not to schedule Texas Tech in any sport per memos obtained by The Athletic. I think this was a really great post that summarizes a lot of people's feelings, which is why, maybe some of the Texas Tech fans are feeling the rage. From Scott Van Pelt, who will be on ESPN in a little while in SportsCenter. There really aren't any rules. You just go to court. If it fails, go to court again until a judge says you're all set. Want a seventh year? Sure. Broke rules? It's fine. There aren't any rules. And here's the situation for the appeal. You're going to go to the Seventh Court of Appeals in Texas State Court, and all four of the judges there are Texas Tech graduates. Spurs up by 5 with 10:43 to go. Knicks with the ball. Turnover by the Knicks, who have played some sloppy basketball here. James Kane says, I don't blame Texas Tech for supporting the player, but that shouldn't have mattered, should not have been able to get the injunction. Right, I don't disagree with you, James, but the point is, if you're wondering why Texas Tech as an institution is getting flack, it's because of the level of support, not supporting him through his mental health journey if he's truly addicted to gambling, which seems like he might be from an outsider point of view, knowing the same information that you guys could all see or not see. It's the support and the statements, I think, that have earned Texas Tech the ire of some of their compatriots across college football and college athletics in general, right? (96-91) Spurs, 10:13 to go here. Spurs are About to pass the ball in to get it to the big man who's dribbling like he's a point guard by the top of the key. Drops back for three, passes it over though as the shot was obscured. Rebound Spurs. Blocked by the Knicks. Knicks will get the ball coming up the court 96-91. Down 5 with 9:47 to go here in the fourth quarter at the Garden. Terrible shot selection by the Knicks. Spurs ball. Spurs are on a little bit of a run here. Knicks need to tighten things up or they're going to make half the Garden freak out that they spent $15,000 on their tickets to not get a victory. Another turnover for the Knicks here, who are playing some of their sloppiest ball of the game at this moment. And another foul on the Knicks. Dave says the casinos are the ones that are really getting the short stick here. How can anyone seriously bet on any of it? Look, the casinos are the ones who try to turn these things over because they fear just that. If people don't think the games are on the up and up, that's what's going to happen. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so. We'd greatly appreciate it. Let YouTube know they should invite some more people in to the end of this game here as we talk about things with the Spurs up by 7. Knicks have been held scoreless here in the fourth quarter in the first 3 minutes of the game. The first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter. And now they finally put 2 points on the board, down 5 to the Spurs. Texas Tech is like 3 years from being a paid home game. James Kane says, wish I could have bet on Sorsby getting the junction. I'd have made a few bucks. I would have lost because I definitely would have thought he did not. He would not get this. Juan says, somebody in the MSG arena is bad luck. Yeah, I know who I would blame. Foul on Robinson. This is another interesting one. So lawyer Tom Mars, a veteran of NCAA cases who's usually suing the NCAA. In 40 years as a lawyer, I've never been as shocked and surprised by a court ruling. That about sums up the reaction on the college sports landscape today. Again, here's the trial date, February 8th, after the national championship game. So if things just went on their course without an appeal, it wouldn't matter. The clock would get run out. Here's another off-the-record comment, which would have been almost as interesting as the on-the-record comments. San Antonio now up 99-93 as the first free throw sinks for Victor. And 2 7-point game with 8 minutes to go. Knicks have not played well in this second half. They didn't play very well in the first quarter, but went on an epic run in the second quarter. But other than that, the Spurs have been the most consistent team here throughout this game. One Big 12 head coach told Pete Nakos he prefers to play Texas Tech with Brendan Soarsby. If you're going to play the Joker, you don't want to play the Joker without its arm. I want to play the villain. So I guess they want to have, the vitriol going against Brendan Soarsby. I didn't think the Big 12 statement was that great, personally. 99-93 Spurs with the ball. Terrible, terrible decision by the Knicks. Victor nails a three-pointer from like 3 feet away from the top of the key and gets fouled, so it'll be a chance at a 4-point play. They're going to challenge the foul, saying that Robinson was pushed into Victor. So they're going to appeal that foul, see if he got pushed. Huge play in this game if that were to somehow be reversed. All right, so Big 12's Brett Yormark on Brendan Soarsby stated, the ramifications of today's ruling are significant and could have broad impacts across college athletics, creating great concern amongst our membership. I've been consulting with our key stakeholders and have scheduled meetings with our conference athletic directors and executive board this week. They're also in charge with NCAA President Charlie Baker, and I anticipate the NCAA to appeal the order in the next 24 to 48 hours. I believe that's already happened. They will continue to monitor and evaluate the situation. So definitely what I guess you might expect him to say, but I would have liked to hear something a little bit stronger. If you missed it earlier today, this is Cody Campbell's statement. This unfortunate situation is the outcome of a broken system. I'm doing everything I can to fix it, which I think is part of the problem, personally. But until there is a permanent solution, Texas Tech and its student athletes have to do the best they can to navigate and compete among the chaos that exists in the reality of the world we live in. And I think that's why a lot of people are really ganged up against somebody like Cody Campbell at this point. Here's Georgia's message to their staff about not scheduling Texas Tech. Coaches and staff, based on recent developments, Georgia Athletics will not schedule future contests against Texas Tech until further notice. Please review your sport's current schedules and future scheduling plans. If you have any contests currently scheduled against Texas Tech or are actively engaged in scheduling discussions with Texas Tech, please notify your sports administrator as soon as possible so we can evaluate the situation and determine next steps. Effective immediately, no new contest should be scheduled against Texas Tech without prior approval from the athletics department. If you have any questions, please let me know. And that was from the Georgia athletic director. Dave's here thinks that Spike Lee might be the reason they're losing. Mars Blackman, it wasn't the shoes, it was a jinx. Hey, I mean, Spike Lee's been there at all the other games, so I don't know if we can blame Spike Lee. But feel free to. This was an interesting one. Former player Nelson Brands and 3 $5 bets on an Iowa football game got him banned. So there's a lot of that out there as well. People kind of pissed about that situation. And as I mentioned earlier, the NCAA has officially filed a notice of appeal. It's described as an accelerated appeal made to the Court of Appeals for the 7th District of Texas. Again, the 4 judges on that appeals court all went to Texas Tech. Do with that what you will. And the challenge is accepted. The 3 points come off the board. The bonus shot, the N1, is removed from a possibility. So it's an offensive foul, and the Knicks get the ball back, and quickly Jalen Brunson comes in and scores 2 points. So what could have been a 10-point game is now a 5-point game, just like that, with the reverse on the challenge. Maybe it was the shoes. Dave's here. Continuing on the updates as we're in a timeout here with 7:31 to go. Knicks down 5. Big 12 ADs, as Brett Yormark said earlier, are scheduled to meet this week. At the center of those discussions is the Brendan Soarsby Texas Tech situation. Most conference bylaws permit the chancellors and presidents to penalize members for conduct and actions detrimental to the league. So they're not trying to, the conference is not going to try to punish Brendan Soarsby. They might punish Texas Tech, maybe for their statements, maybe for their support of going against the NCAA, in effect going against their conference brethren on this, even though they weren't part of the court. Just their support could be the issue. Big 12 ADs are also, in addition to the Big 10 and the statements we've heard from Nebraska and Georgia, they've had serious talks on not playing Texas Tech. So this continues to be an ongoing evolvement here. Let's see if anything new has come out from Ross Dellinger, who seems to be the one with all of the information. James Kane says the Knicks are just having a bad game. The Knicks haven't really had a good game in this series. They've had the right run at the right time. And, the Spurs in the last game in particular had a couple of really bad plays towards the end that helped let the Knicks take that game, more so than the Knicks winning that game, in my opinion. Game one, I think, was a little bit different in that regard. They had a great run. Jalen Brunson got hot at the right time. Dave's here says, that dude, meaning Cody Campbell, can't lose his billions fast enough. Listen, I understand that sentiment. I don't know that we're necessarily in the world right now where billionaires are being forced to possibly lose anything. If anything, they might be getting more and more, as some might say. And look, man, you worked hard to get your billions, all the credit in the world to you, but something's got to give, you would think, at some point. See if we can find anything else interesting in and around the college football world. Is anybody excited about the World Cup? That's getting ready to start this week. We've already had our first of probably many controversies. One of the actually higher regarded Somali refs who had earned a few games to call in the World Cup here was denied entry as he entered the United States and was sent back to Turkey. So that's the first one of anything. Good organization there, everybody. Great job. Solid work. Get your plans together. Figure out how to get the people in ahead of time. Instead, make an international incident and get a ref removed. If there was an issue, he never should have been on the plane. All that kind of good stuff. So I think it's going to be interesting to see some more comments out here. John Kurtz, who covers the Big 12 well. You guys should check his channel out. I'm sure he had a great video today. I haven't seen it yet. I've been trying to keep up with everything. Says that substance abuse does not jeopardize the integrity of a football game. Let's see what that's in response to. Someone's trying to say that other substance abuse, if you don't fundamentally get the difference of a player betting on sports versus any other thing that could impact their physical ability to do a game, I don't know what to tell you. You're just trying to figure out a way to not talk logically, in my opinion. Andy Staples trolling somebody, saying that player thinks that players betting on their own games would make sports more entertaining. They're referencing WWE. Nicole Auerbach is saying the real question is whether the Big 12 steps in to stop the Red Raiders from playing Brendan Soarsby after a Texas Tech judge overruled the NCAA. I don't know what they could do to Texas Tech there because Soarsby can probably come ahead and go after Texas Tech for that. But it's interesting to see what they're going to say. One of her comments here was, it's an argument that actually makes a mockery of mental health concerns and anxiety disorders. It treats mental health as a get-out-of-jail-free card instead of something to be taken seriously with therapy, time, and perhaps even medication. It opens the door for another football player who breaks rules to avoid the consequences of his own actions by saying he would prefer not to deal with the punishment. It would harm his mental health. It would make him happiest if he could do the thing he wants whenever he wants. I agree. Even if that's not Soarsby. The NCAA president is now endorsing the legislation that the NCAA at best was lukewarm on, the Protect College Sports Act. Back in the game, we still have a 5-point game. The Spurs are challenging the last call, which I didn't see. Dave's here says 5 points with 7 minutes, a long way to go. Yeah, for sure. And I think another challenge was overturned there. So Victor will go to the line. James says all of this is going to open up a huge can of worms. I think the biggest ramifications here is if all of these conferences choose not to play Texas Tech as punishment for what they believe was their culpability in this ruling that I think that most people think jeopardizes sports. Victor sinks both free throws, 7-point lead, Knicks ball. Brunson with the ball at the top of the key here. Six on the shot clock. And Anunoby with a great jumper in the paint. But the Spurs going to come right back and add another 2 points to maintain that 7-point lead. Knicks need to go on a run here. They're the Spurs are getting it from the outside with their 3-point game. They're driving to the hoop. Knicks have had a bunch of turnovers, some bad shot selection. Blocked by Anunoby. Brunson gets the rebound, 2-point and 1. So the Knicks have a shot to bring it within 4 points here with 5:54 to go. Brunson's to shoot. And he sinks it. 3-point play. 104-100. The Spurs come right back down the floor. Really moving the ball up quick. And get the 2 points. 6-point lead here with 5:40 to go. Wemby tipped that one in. Knicks need a stop on the defensive side of the ball. They haven't really been able to put a couple of those together, and they've shot poorly from the field. Please do hit the like button. I would greatly appreciate it. The officiating in this game I don't think has been particularly good. They're trying to decide whether or not, as the Knicks were about to lose the ball, whether they call timeout before stepping out of bounds. Six on the shot clock for the Knicks as they try to inbound the ball. Missed free throw. Two shots at the net there for the Knicks on that possession with the offensive rebound, but they were not able to put it away. Spurs miss. Knicks take the ball back up court. 4:50 to go. Another turnover for Brunson. Spurs slowing it down a little bit. Wembanyama to the net. And fouled. He's getting fouled all day today. Played a much better game so far than he did in the previous game. Utah athletic director, who's never shy about talking either. As with many around the country, I'm disheartened by the injunction issued today in the Brendan Soarsby matter, which will allow him to compete this fall despite clear violations of NCAA policies and ethical guidelines. We are all committed to supporting student-athlete well-being, but we must also have a definitive path forward that preserves the most basic tenets of competitive integrity in our industry. Eight-point lead for the Spurs with 4:50 to go. Brunson miss. Wembanyama on the rebound. But OG blocks Dylan Harper's 3-foot shot. Brendan Soarsby's statement, very short and to the point. I'm very grateful for the endless support I have received throughout the entire process. I'm grateful for the chance to rejoin my teammates. This opportunity comes with the responsibility to remain focused on my personal growth, the ability to learn from this experience and be able to use my situation to help others going forward. I don't think he wrote that. Pete Thamel, also ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips earlier today. Not exactly the strongest commissioner in college football and definitely the weakest of the Power Four. To ESPN on the horrendous pattern epitomized in Sorsby's ruling, it's another example of why we remain diligently focused on working with Congress to ensure rules are able to be consistently and fairly applied. To have college sports be continually under attack whenever a ruling is handed down that someone doesn't like is a horrendous pattern that is evading and severely eroding the integrity of our profession. No one said Texas Tech did anything illegal. Completely different from doing something unethical or something that people don't think you should have done. You may not like that. You're a Texas Tech fan, I understand. But there's a reason why a lot of schools are united against that. They feel that Texas Tech helped enable the situation by supporting the player, not for his mental health journey, but in some of the statements before the hearings and even today. It's not illegal, but your words have consequences too. And right now, people are not seemingly very happy with Texas Tech, whether that's fair or not. They still have that situation they got to deal with, right? We'll see whether it's a lot of big words, no outcome, and it all passes, whether that's what the Big 12 does or does not do, what the Big 10 does or does not do, Nebraska, Georgia, everyone else who's come out or leaked to the reporters. John, you and I are just not going to agree on this, but I appreciate you jumping in. Indiana players and a volleyball coach also bet. So did Oklahoma's quarterback. They only got a couple of games suspension. Why is no one blackballing them? Because those programs are not out basically helping to support a lawsuit against the NCAA and everyone. Iowa State guys got suspended for a freaking year. They're not the same situation, even if they're the same type of thing. I'm sorry, I don't get the argument, man. I don't. I honestly don't. This isn't punishing them because Brendan Soarsby bet. That's not the situation. That's not what that's about. The reason why these guys are reacting the way they are, and I'm not even saying that they're right to do it, they're not hypocrites about it, but you don't see Cincinnati and Indiana. You don't have the evidence that they did or didn't know what they did and didn't know yet in public view. We don't know that Texas Tech didn't know anything either before he came over. But what you do know is that Texas Tech was very supportive of Sorsby, not just on helping him with his mental health journey, but they were also supportive of the lawsuit, even if they were not party to the lawsuit, right? The statements today, Cody's thing, and then there's the backdrop of Cody Campbell, which I think is impacting some of these other conversations that maybe the Big Ten and others are having. And that's like almost this whole other thing of whether that's right or wrong. Texas Tech had nothing to do with the Sorsby defense team. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. How do you know? I know I don't know, but would you be surprised if they helped? I wouldn't. But even if they didn't, again, that has literally nothing to do with why schools are lashing out about this. It doesn't. I'm sorry. I get it. If you're a Texas Tech fan, you're getting crapped on everywhere today. I totally understand. But even if they had nothing to do with his legal team, that has nothing to do with what they are or not doing both before the hearing happened and the reactions today. That's why things are happening. Again, John Dry, what the fuck does Georgia and their actions have to do with Texas Tech's actions? Georgia, I think the Georgia athletic director shouldn't say a freaking word because of all the things that have been going on. That's a completely different situation. Yes, people could be hypocritical about that, right? I get that. That has no impact on the biggest rule in college football and college sports. Don't bet on your damn team in college football. Period. Red line. Constant red line. Always. Forever. Hundreds of years. 100+ years. Baseball. 100. That's the difference. I'm not saying that what Georgia has done with the freaking tickets is right, but deflecting away from what one did to somebody else is freaking weak, man. I'm sorry. It's weak. Texas Tech fans have a right to be upset. They're not the cause of any of this, and they're dealing with it. I personally wonder whether any of this that's coming down on Texas Tech from these other conferences would have happened if they just would have supported Brendan Soarsby in terms of his mental health and were not supporting his lawsuit publicly like they did with the statements that they did. And maybe we're a little quieter today, and maybe things would have been perceived differently. Maybe that's wrong too. But talking about what Georgia did has literally nothing to do with Texas Tech could or couldn't do right now. They're completely separate issues. Just because I know you are, but what am I? If two wrongs don't make a right, are we 5 years old? What does it matter? Like, it's irrelevant to Texas Tech and what they're doing with Brendan Soarsby if Georgia's a rogue program on driving. They're not the same thing. Georgia, it's freaking dangerous. It's a different level of danger. It's a public danger in terms of somebody could die, get hurt. Like, I totally get that. Like, you can make an argument that some of that or all of it is more risky to society as a whole. But sports have to be based off of integrity. If people think that sport is not up and up in any way, and if the Brendan Soarsby situation begets another situation because the next guy can just say, I have an addiction, and oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bet on my team. I hit the wrong dial button on my BetMGM app, but I'm addicted to. It's a completely different situation, man. The integrity of the game on the field by players and gambling has been sacrosanct for 100+ years for real reasons. That does not absolve, if you want to take your shots at Georgia, I get it. It does not absolve Georgia from what's been going on with them. I've taken many statements against Georgia. I've taken them against Miami where a player killed somebody while speeding. It's the way that they have handled it, I think, that is causing them the grief that they may get from other conference members, other teams. Because the one thing everyone could agree upon before the Brendan Soarsby situation materialized is you don't bet on your own team in college football and sports. And don't tell me that, well, hey, they're doing betting and the networks are doing betting. They do beer too. You don't get to say, well, you guys shouldn't say anything about that guy drunk driving because like you advertise Budweiser. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. That's just a ridiculous argument. I don't think any team would have backed their own player the way that Texas Tech did. I think they would have backed him to get him well. Old Texas Tech man. Like, I think Texas Tech had every right to support him and get him into rehab and do all of that stuff. And I think everyone else would have done that. But I don't know if everyone would have gone as far as Texas Tech has gone. And they also don't have a lightning rod like Cody Campbell, which may or may not be fair again to the program. But the program is like, more people know who Cody Campbell is than Kirby Hocutt is. That's a problem too. That becomes a lightning rod. And I know what it's like to be a lightning rod program. So I get why Texas Tech fans are upset. Because it's of no doing to you what's gone on. I personally think that Texas Tech would make it to the Big 12 championship game with or without Brendan Soarsby. I still will pick them to do that with or without Brendan Soarsby. And maybe you're right. Maybe every other program would have supported the lawsuit, but I don't think actually every one of them would have. I just don't. I think some would. I don't know the number. It's just an opinion and a guess. There's just a way of, I think, I'm trying to explain why I think what's happening. I'm not trying to say I agree or don't agree with threatening to not play them or the hypocrisy that might be inherently part of this. Like, I get all of that too. The NCAA, everyone blaming the NCAA for everything as if all these member schools are not the NCAA and they're not charged with doing what all their members want to do is also ridiculous. Back in the game, 111-104 with 146 to go. The Spurs are up. The Knicks are going to have to do a pretty tremendous comeback here in the final minute and 40 to win this first game at home. I mean, they still wouldn't need to necessarily win a game back in San Antonio because they did take 2 in San Antonio, but this is a big game for the Spurs if they walk away with this win, which right now they got a 7-point lead. They got the ball, 1:19 left. Again, spare me the deflection, man. Don't care. You guys can talk about every bad case that's happened everywhere as if it justifies what Texas Tech is or isn't doing. I don't care. Sorry, I don't. This is like, how about some personal accountability for what, the people there who are making the decisions and how they're acting? It's up to them. The athletic director, when self-cheated, yeah, like probably should have done more. I mean, yeah, okay, all right, so cool. They should have done more. What does that have to do with what's going on right now with Brendan Soarsby? And how, if any other school had this happen with their quarterback, everyone at Texas Tech that's using every excuse would probably, 95% of them would be having the exact same conversation the rest of we have, which is that don't bet on your own team. If you do, you don't get to play college football anymore. But the judge said something different. Opens up a whole can of worms, man. I get it. All Knicks can do is foul over and over and hope that the Spurs miss their free throws. Unlikely that that's going to happen. Spurs up 6, 57 seconds to go. Knicks are going to need to stop here quick, get a couple of three-pointers, or else the Spurs are going to come in with all that emotion in the Garden and, walk away with a win and be up, only be down 1. They do miss it, so Knicks coming down, 6 points down, 37 seconds. And nails a three-pointer. So you got a 111-108 game with 32 seconds to go. Spurs coming up with it. They need to stop, though, for sure. 11 on the shot clock, 19 on the game clock. makes the two-pointer. Knicks down 5, 12 seconds to go. Spurs are in a great position to walk away with a victory at the Garden. So not looking like not one home team will have won a game through 3 games of the NBA Finals, barring some miraculous turn of events here for the Knicks. Want to appreciate everybody coming in. I appreciate the spirited conversation. You don't have to agree with me. I'm not here to hate on Texas Tech as a program, to be clear. I don't like some of the things that are going down. I think the ruling is terrible. Period. End of story. That's, I would have thought the same if it was Texas. I would have thought the same if it was any other team. It's not directed at Texas Tech. It just happens to be a Texas Tech player. Hey, let me be real. Miami was in the Brendan Soarsby sweepstakes at one point too. This could easily have been an alternate universe where Miami was losing their quarterback and all that. I'd like to think I'd be pretty consistent because I've given Miami shit when there's been things I thought were uncool and not okay, regardless of the fact that they're my own team. There's homerism, there's your own colored glasses, and then there's taking it to a degree like where I just can't really follow the argument whatsoever. But look, you're entitled to your take. My personal advice is if you're in the Texas Tech Red Raiders fandom, and I have friends who are part of that world that I've met both online doing this and being around as well, the best answer is not to deflect to whataboutism. Whataboutism is a pretty weak excuse, especially if you didn't really do anything. You'd be like, hey, man, an easy answer to me would be, listen, I think that ruling was bad, but, if he's going to play, he's going to play. I don't really like the way maybe my administration handled it, but I'm going to root for my team. I think you keep your, you kind of split the difference there pretty well, and you don't, no one's going to really be able to come back at you because it's kind of truth. You can disagree with the decision from what you think ethically should have happened. Knicks drain a three-pointer with 9.4 seconds to go. A timeout. They're down 2, so game's not over yet. Okay, so because it's a University of Houston judge, that it doesn't make the decision any better. Not every decision is based off of because you're Republican or a Democrat or whether you went to Texas Tech or not. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, you and I just don't agree on this. I don't care if you went to Harvard. She went to Harvard. Freaking Yale, don't care. Freaking University of Miami Law School, UCLA, don't care. Bad decision. Universally mocked today. Bad decision. Judges make bad decisions all the time. This has been, we'll see. Whether the NCAA can't do anything about it. Judge can't make teams play Texas Tech. They definitely can't make them schedule them in the future. So maybe they can't do everything, but I think Texas Tech has a 50-50 shot of having to deal with some BS that maybe they didn't anticipate. I don't even know if I agree with that scheduling situation that's going on. I think that reeks of hypocrisy on some levels. I think the reason it's happening is because how people perceive how Texas Tech has handled some of this. I don't really know that I agree that's what should be done. I'm just relaying what is being reported on that front. I agree with you on this one, John Dry. It is good that the other judge who could have heard this case, who was a Tech alum and had been seen in images with the program, recused himself, or it would have looked worse, like the Ole Miss judge did to Ole Miss. I agree with that as well. But now you have the situation where the appeals court has 4 Texas Tech judges. They might be completely fair and impartial. They might agree with the ruling. I think that will get appealed too, personally. I guess that would have to first go to the state of Texas Supreme Court, and then somehow someone would have to figure out an interstate reason to take it elsewhere. I think when it's all said and done, I don't have a lot of faith that this is going to get adjudicated differently. I think that Brendan Soarsby is going to be playing in Week 3 for Texas Tech. I just don't have to like it. Judges used to be mainly impartial. I don't know if I believe that to be the case anymore, personally, but your experience may vary. All right, Spurs have shooting a second free throw. They're up 3 with 6.8 seconds to go. If they miss this, the Knicks have a shot to come back and tie it with 6.8 seconds, needing a three-pointer. A free throw right now, if you're the Spurs, you just let the Knicks do whatever they want. Don't foul them. Don't give them a 4-point play. So we'll see what happens here. Second free throw is good. So the Spurs are up 115 and 111, 6.8 seconds to go. That's looking like a wrap. I don't think the Spurs are going to make a mistake of causing a 4-point play. Timeout. Maybe the Knicks are going to advance and try to shoot really fast. They have no more timeouts for the Knicks. Everyone is saying the judge is from Lubbock. I'm saying they're wrong. Yeah, I don't know where the judge is. I just know what district the judge sits on. Understood. C. John says, not sure why peeps keep saying that. Yeah, I don't know where the judge is from. Obviously, the district that the circuit that the judge serves on covers Lubbock as part of that district, or if it's a circuit, I don't know what it's called in the state system in Texas. I don't care if they have 35 degrees from the best law schools in the country. I could still think it was a bad decision that sets a terrible precedent, even if they are not from Lubbock and went to Houston, a rival Big 12 school. Appreciate y'all joining me today. Gonna wrap up as soon as this game wraps up, which is just moments away. Would appreciate if you hit the like button on your way out at a minimum. Out of bounds, Knicks ball, but they're down 4 with 2.1 to go. Maybe because Fort Worth is considered West Texas. I mean, maybe people have some geography concerns there. Yeah, my dog is fundamentally against this ruling. She does not like the injunction. Spurs win 115-111. Knicks really only played one good quarter, a tremendous second quarter. The Spurs kind of controlled that game. So shout out to the Spurs. It's 2-1. Next game is Wednesday in the Garden. Knicks better win that game. Give themselves a chance to still win at home. As a Knicks fan, I am sure there'll be a feeling of impending doom in New York based off of past history. I think it was a very important game for the Knicks to win. They did not. Series is wide open again here with Game 4 at the Garden on Wednesday. In terms of the Brendan Soarsby story, I think we can look for a lot of interesting news coming out of these conference meetings. We'll find out if they're all talk or if people are really going to do anything to potentially punish, rightfully or wrongfully, our friends in Texas Tech and future scheduling, and if they can't do anything about this current season. Thanks again for checking out the show and sticking around, talking some basketball, talking some college football here on a June 8th, Monday night, late night, 11:30 on the East Coast. It's 8:30 here on the West Coast. I will be wrapping up now. Please hit like if you haven't subscribed, even if you disagree with me. You might agree with me the next time. So with that, I will talk to you all later. Have a great rest of your night.